She should have walked away. Every instinct in her body told her to cancel the blind date the moment she saw the empty restaurant table. But minutes later, a stranger would shatter everything she thought she knew, risking his own life to save hers. And that was the moment the CEO realized the blind date wasn't a joke, it was destiny testing her courage. The evening had started with irritation humming under Evelyn Hart's skin. Being the CEO of Hart International meant her days were packed with deadlines, negotiations, and decisions that could shift markets. She didn't have time for games, least of all blind dates arranged by her overly hopeful best friend. She walked into the small rooftop restaurant expecting something elegant, something sophisticated. Instead, she saw a single empty chair and a glass of water sweating on the table like it was nervous to meet her. She checked her watch, exhaled sharply, and wondered why she even agreed to this. Maybe loneliness had finally chipped at her armor. Maybe the success everyone envied felt emptier at night than she cared to admit. The city twinkled around her, but her chest felt hollow. She almost called her driver to take her home, until a soft voice behind her said, "Excuse me, are you Evelyn?" She turned, expecting a polished businessman with confidence dripping from his posture. Instead, she saw a man in slightly worn jeans, a pressed but inexpensive shirt, and a kindness in his eyes that felt strangely disarming. He looked tired, not in a defeated way, but like someone who'd fought too many battles alone. "I'm sorry I'm late," he added quickly. "I had to drop my daughter at my neighbor's. She's 7. Life happens faster than I can handle sometimes." Evelyn blinked. A daughter? A blind date who was a single dad? That was definitely not what she expected. But something in the way he spoke, honest, careful, humble, made her pause instead of dismissing him. They sat, and for the first time in years, Evelyn found herself really talking. He wasn't intimidated by her title. He wasn't trying to impress her. He listened. He laughed softly. And when he described raising a child alone after losing his wife, she felt something inside her loosen, like an old wound she forgot she had. Still, she wasn't ready to admit she liked him. Not yet. Not until the moment danger came faster than thought. It happened in seconds. A man stumbled in from the stairwell, wild-eyed, desperate, clutching something metallic. The restaurant staff froze. Evelyn's breath caught. The object in his hand glinted under the lantern light, a knife. He muttered something about being fired, being cheated, being ignored by the world. And then his eyes landed on her. "You're one of them," he spat. "One of those CEOs who ruins lives." Evelyn didn't even get to stand. The man lunged, but before the blade reached her, something else moved, swift, fearless, instinctive, her blind date. He threw himself between her and the attacker, grabbing the man's arm mid-swing. The sound of struggle filled the air, the scrape of shoes, the clatter of the knife hitting the ground. People screamed. Chairs toppled. The terrified waiter shouted for help. Evelyn stared as the man she barely knew overpowered the attacker, pinning him until security rushed in. Her heart thundered. Her hands shook. And all she could think was, he didn't even hesitate. When it was over, he turned to her, breathing hard. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly, eyes burning with a mix of shock and awe. Why would you risk yourself for me? You barely know me." He shrugged lightly, wiping sweat from his brow. "You were in danger. That's all I needed to know." And in that moment, her world shifted, not because he saved her, but because he meant it, because she saw in him something rare, courage without ego, kindness without agenda. And that was when Evelyn realized, her blind date wasn't a joke, that he might just be the first real thing in her life. The next morning felt different. Evelyn woke with an ache in her chest, not fear, but a strange longing to understand the man behind the bravery. She spent the day stuck in meetings, struggling to focus as his face flashed in her mind. The way he shielded her. The selflessness in his eyes. She kept wondering about his daughter, too. What was it like for a child to be raised by someone with such quiet strength? Late afternoon, she found herself dialing his number. She didn't even remember saving it, but somehow it was there. He answered with a warm, gentle hello that made her forget to breathe for a second. "I just wanted to thank you," she said awkwardly. "Yesterday, it meant more than I can explain." "You don't have to thank me," he replied softly. "I'm just glad you're safe." There was a pause, comfortable, surprising, then he asked, "Could we try again?" Maybe dinner without danger this time? For reasons she couldn't logically defend, Evelyn said yes. Dinner turned into long conversations, and long conversations turned into quiet walks under streetlights. His daughter, Lily, was shy at first, hiding behind her father's leg with curious eyes. But the moment Evelyn knelt and said, "Hi, I'm Evelyn. I like your sparkly shoes," the little girl's face brightened with a smile that melted every wall Evelyn had left. Watching them together made her heart ache in a way she didn't expect. Not pain, something gentler, deeper. Something like hope. Weeks passed, and their bond grew. She learned he worked 2 jobs, barely slept, and still attended every school event for Lily. He learned that behind her cold, CEO exterior lived a woman who missed her mother, who felt lonely at the top, who was tired of pretending strength was the same as happiness. But their biggest challenge came when the board of her company discovered their relationship. Rumors spread. Investors whispered. Media snapped photos. People judged him, his simple clothes, his small apartment, his ordinary life. Evelyn, her board chairman, said coldly, "A CEO dating a struggling single father is not the image Heart International needs. You must reconsider your association." For the first time in her career, Evelyn felt anger boil sharp and hot. Not because they questioned her reputation, but because they belittled him, the man who saved her, the man who taught her love was not a weakness. That night, she found him sitting outside his building, shoulders slumped. Maybe we're too different," he whispered. "I don't want your life to fall apart because of me." She knelt in front of him, taking his hands. "You didn't ruin my life," she said. "You saved it. And I'm not losing you." Her voice trembled, but her conviction was unshakable. He looked at her, eyes wet, and for the first time allowed himself to believe she meant it. In the days that followed, Evelyn faced the board with a steel spine and a fearless heart. She told them she wouldn't abandon the man who protected her, who stood for everything her company claimed to value: integrity, courage, loyalty. It wasn't easy. It cost her deals. But she kept going, because for the first time, she wasn't fighting for a company, she was fighting for love. Months later, as she stood in the park watching Lily run toward her with open arms, she realized something astonishing. Her life felt fuller, warmer, more real than it ever had. The danger that once threatened to break her ended up revealing the one person who could mend her. Love didn't come to her boardroom. It didn't come in perfection, wealth, or polished profiles. It came in the form of a single dad with tired eyes and a brave heart. The blind date wasn't a joke. It was the beginning of everything she never knew she needed.